Everybody out here chasing clout, chasing validation, chasing people. But when you put all that energy back into yourself, you unlock a version of you that most never tap into. That's the marathon. That's the real power. This ain't about being selfish. It's about being intentional. You can't pour into nobody if your cup empty. You can't lead if you lost. You can't elevate if you anchored to distractions. The world respects the man who builds in silence, stays consistent, and makes progress that speaks louder than words. Focus on yourself and watch how your whole life shifts. See, the problem with most people is they give too much of their energy away. They're chasing approval, attention, and validation from everybody but themselves. But when you flip the script and focus on you, your growth, your discipline, your mindset, you stop depending on the outside world to define your worth. That's where independence starts. You no longer move based on what they think. You move based on what you know. You don't need no co-sign when you've already stamped yourself. Real freedom is not having to rely on anyone else to keep you going. When you build yourself up, you become self-sufficient, and that's where real strength is born. Because nobody can take away what you built within. Independence ain't about isolating yourself forever. It's about not being controlled by the opinions, expectations, or actions of others. Most people out here get stuck because they're living in a cage built from somebody else's words. They're scared to move without approval. But when you focus on yourself, you create a foundation that can't be shaken. You start making decisions from a place of clarity instead of fear. That's when strength shows up, because strength is not about muscles. It's about discipline, patience, and resilience. And when your focus is inward, those qualities grow naturally. You don't break easy because you've already trained yourself to depend on nothing but your own grind, your own vision, and your own consistency. Think about it. If your energy always tied to other people, then your peace will always be unstable. That's why focusing on yourself is key. It makes you bulletproof. When people leave, you don't collapse. When things slow down, you don't panic. You build your foundation on your own energy, not someone else's. And that's powerful. That's why Nipsey always said it's a marathon. Because when you run your race, you ain't worried about who's in the stands watching or who's running next to you. You know where you're headed and you know what you're capable of. That self-focus is what allows you to stand tall when life tries to knock you down. Strength ain't loud. It's quiet, patient, and built behind closed doors. Independence also brings respect. People may not tell you, but they notice when you move different. They notice when you ain't desperate for approval. They notice when you're focused on your grind instead of gossip, on building instead of begging. That type of energy can't be faked. People respect strength and they sense it the moment you walk in a room. Self-focus builds that aura. It's the reason some men don't need to speak much to be felt. Their presence speaks for them because independence shines through everything they do. That's the kind of strength that attracts opportunities, respect, and the right people. Because everybody wants to align with someone solid, not someone shaky. The truth is, distractions will always exist. Friends, family, social media, even your own doubts. Everything will try to pull your focus outward. But independence means you don't get lost in the noise. You can love people, connect with them, support them. But at the end of the day, your foundation stays rooted in you. Because if you lose yourself trying to please others, you end up with nothing left. But if you stay focused on you, you'll always have something solid to bring to the table. And that's the difference between those who crumble under pressure and those who rise. Strength is not avoiding pressure. It's knowing you've built yourself enough to handle it. Let me be real, focusing on yourself ain't easy. It requires discipline. It requires cutting off distractions. It requires saying no when everybody wants you to say yes. But that sacrifice is what separates leaders from followers. Most people fold because they're scared to stand alone. But independence forces you to stand on your own 2 feet. And when you do, you realize you're stronger than you ever thought. You realize you don't need constant validation because your grind is validation enough. That strength is what gives you the courage to chase dreams that seem impossible because you no longer depend on permission. You gave yourself the green light. At the end of the day, independence and strength are not gifts. They're built. And the only way to build them is by focusing inward. When you lock in on your purpose, when you invest in your growth, when you protect your energy, you become unstoppable. People will come and go, opportunities will rise and fade, but your foundation will remain. That's what focusing on yourself does. It makes you unshakable. That's the real power of independence. That's the real meaning of strength. And once you tap into that, you don't just survive, you thrive. That's the marathon. That's how you unlock your true potential. Everybody out here got potential. But the truth is, most never tap into it because they too busy pouring their energy everywhere else but inside. They chasing people, chasing trends, chasing things that don't even matter 5 years from now. Potential is like a seed. It don't grow just because you got it. It grows when you water it, when you protect it, when you give it the focus it needs. That's why locking in on yourself is so powerful. The moment you stop distracting yourself with outside noise and start investing that same energy into your vision, your talent, your discipline, that's the moment you begin to unlock a version of you that's been waiting to shine. Potential don't show up by accident. It shows up through focus, consistency, and faith in your own grind. When you focus on yourself, you create space for growth. See, growth can't happen in chaos. It can't happen when your mind is full of opinions, gossip, or constant comparison. Growth needs silence, clarity, and direction. That's why you gotta pull your energy back from chasing the crowd and put it into building yourself. It's like Nipsey said, it's a marathon, not a sprint. The marathon is about running your race at your own pace, staying consistent, and leveling up little by little until your potential becomes visible to everybody. When you focus on you, you discover strengths you didn't know you had. You break habits that have been holding you back for years, and you build new qualities that turn you from average into exceptional. Potential is wasted when you let distractions lead your life. Think about it. If you're always watching what somebody else doing, who's watching over your own growth? If you're always trying to please people, who's making sure your vision is respected? That's why focus is everything. Focus is the key that unlocks doors you didn't even know existed. Once you put all that energy into you, new skills start showing up, new opportunities find you, and confidence starts building. It's like unlocking levels in a game. You keep discovering new powers as long as you stay locked in. But if you keep breaking your focus for things that don't add value, you'll never see what you're truly capable of. One thing about focusing on yourself, it forces you to confront your flaws. And that's a blessing, not a curse, because you can't unlock your full potential if you're running from the parts of yourself that need work. When you really sit with yourself, you start seeing where you need discipline, where you need patience, where you need to grow up. That self-awareness is the foundation of unlocking greatness. Too many people want the reward without the work. But focusing on yourself means holding yourself accountable, improving piece by piece, and not blaming the world for your shortcomings. Once you master that, your potential expands in ways you never imagined. Strength comes from honesty, and honesty comes from focus. Another thing focus does, it sharpens your vision. Without focus, your potential is scattered. You might have talent, but if it's spread too thin, it never reaches its full power. But when you focus all your energy in one direction, your potential becomes unstoppable. Think about a magnifying glass. Sunlight alone don't burn anything. But when it's focused through the glass, it sets things on fire. That's how your potential works. You already got the light, but when you focus it, you create heat, impact, and results. That's why successful people always preach focus. It's not about being perfect. It's about being consistent in one direction until you break through. Unlocking your potential also means tapping into purpose. See, focus without purpose is just motion without direction. But when you focus on yourself long enough, you start finding what really drives you, what really matters to you. That's when your potential aligns with your purpose, and that's when life starts shifting. Doors open, connections come, and opportunities align. Not because of luck, but because you're walking in who you're really supposed to be. That's why self-focus is so powerful. It strips away the fake expectations, the outside noise, and leaves you face to face with your calling. And once you tap into that, you're unstoppable. At the end of the day, unlocking your potential is not about proving something to the world. It's about proving something to yourself. It's about waking up every day knowing you gave your all to the vision, to the discipline, to the growth you committed to. Focusing on yourself is not selfish. It's necessary. Because the more you unlock your potential, the more value you bring to everything and everyone around you. You can't inspire if you never pushed yourself. You can't lead if you never built yourself. That's why self-focus is the key. It's the door that takes you from who you are now to who you were always meant to be. Unlock it and the marathon continues. At the end of the day, everything comes back to this. If you don't focus on yourself, you'll never know how far you could have really gone. The distractions, the noise, the people, they'll always be there. But your time, your energy, your vision, that's limited. And if you waste it chasing what don't matter, you'll rob yourself of the greatness you were meant to unlock. Independence and strength come when you build yourself from the inside out, Potential gets unlocked when you give your grind the focus it deserves. That's the blueprint. The marathon ain't about rushing to the finish line. It's about running your race, stacking your wins, and elevating step by step. Focus on yourself, and the world gon' respect you. Build your strength and nobody can break you. Unlock your potential, and you'll inspire generations. That's the real legacy.